All right, so today we're going to be testing some fuse rates on some ball shells that we have over here on the right. I'll get you a quick shot of those. But basically the goal here is to figure out what it looks like in this new rack that Garrison designed. And as you can see, we have 5 tubes in the rack and they're angled like that. So check it out, and he pre-drilled all the holes in the bottom, so it makes it way easier. You can reload these things and refuse them as many times as you want. Now in the last video we did, we used the Hdpe mortar racks, and those are actually right behind me if I can just pan the camera over here. So that's what we did last time, and as you can see we got a couple already fused there on the bottom. So you guys might remember that video where we tested all the paste on these racks. If you haven't seen it, you can click in the upper right corner of your screen and check it out. So on this rack here, like I said, we're gonna be testing out some fuse rates again. On the angled shots, we do have a bit more spacing here, and so I don't know if that's gonna become an issue, because obviously in the Hdpe racks, the tubes are all right next to each other. But we've got 5 different fuses that we're going to be testing burn rates on. The first one here burns at 20 seconds a foot. And we have 2 pink fuses, but the lighter of the 2 colors here burns at 10 seconds a foot. And the one to the left is a lot faster. It's a darker pink and it burns at 2 seconds a foot. So on these last 2, it might be a bit of a weird concept, because when you think a quick fuse, you think it all burns the same, right? Well, the stuff here on the right is safety fuse, but this is also quick fuse. And as you can see, the burn time here is 0.3 to 1.25 seconds per foot. And it does definitely lean towards that 1.25 seconds, whereas the quick hobby fuse guarantees that burn time between 0.1 seconds and 0.3 seconds a foot. So it's way quicker. That's why we're testing both of those.
Why I wanted to test this out is the distance from this hole to here to this hole is going to have to be an extra ½ inch longer on the fuse.
Okay.
Compared to these 2 holes,
yeah,
you can run shorter, which is the same fuse we use over there on the Hdpe racks. So I'm scared that you're going to get like a delay, and then it's going to be quicker with a slight delay on the last shell.
Because it has a harder angle here on the right and left.
Yes.
So that's why the spacing is a little different there. So the way we're going to do this is, you'll see he's putting in a leader fuse over here, and this is where we're going to be lighting it with a torch. And you'll notice that fuse comes out like this. So you'd be hitting this green fuse right here with your torch. And then you see all these pre-drilled holes. So that's how we're gonna get these shells to continue down the rack. And what he's doing now is adding a connector fuse between the first tube and the second tube, and we just repeat that all the way down. So this isn't just one fuse all the way down, it's actually several of these little cut pieces. And as you can see, it goes from this hole here, right over to the second hole. He's doing the same thing there, and then we just add a little bit of hot glue at the end to get them all in place.
I would say that I've probably fused up 1,000 shells by now like this, just personally, or messing around with you and stuff, or in the show. And I've never had the hot glue gun. We use it on low heat, but I've never had it ignite a fuse. But just for safety precaution, I never load the shell first.
Yep.
I always hot glue everything, let it cool, and then I load the shells next.
Absolutely, because remember, these shells, we actually take the lift charge out and put it right into the tube. So what he's talking about with the heat from that hot glue gun, potentially, this is very rare that that would happen, but potentially that hot glue gun, the very tip of it, that's the hottest part, could set off that lift charge. That's why we don't do that before we do this. So as you can see, we are loading the lift charge into the tube right in the bottom. We've already got it pre-fused, and that's basically, we're just gonna repeat that with all of these fuses here. So yeah, we're just dumping the lift charge right into the tube. So the cool part about these shooter shells by Stargate Fireworks is they are numbered, but I don't know if that matters. So we're gonna see if that correlates. We have 5 of the number 6 shells in this rack right now. We're gonna see if all those effects are the same. All right, we're gonna have to shoot this in wide angle here. There's gonna be a huge spread. So here goes the 20-second fuse test. All right, the good news is they are labeled correctly for effect.
They are.
The bad news is we lost a little bit of height on those.
We did. And I don't know why either.
So obviously this is why we do our test videos like this. Now we lost a lot of height on here, but I can assure you it has nothing to do with these holes we drilled in the bottom. So we just figured out our problem, and if you guys couldn't tell, that's the problem. So when we dump the lift charge from the ball shells into the tube, it's actually taking the form of the bottom of the tube. And that, as you can see, is way bigger than the base. That's why we're losing all that height, okay? Because the lift charge is collecting there on the bottom. On a canister shell, we don't have that problem because check it out, the base is almost exactly the diameter of the tube, and all that lift generally stays there at the bottom where it should be. So we're gonna go ahead and test a shooter shell out of a tube.
Just fine.
Yep. We're gonna try it one more time for good measure.
That's pretty loud, actually.
So that lift charge is more compressed with the lift cup in the bottom and it being in that little piece of cardboard. But as soon as we obstruct it and take it out, it becomes a problem. All right, so we're gonna try this again. These are the shells labeled number 1, and this is the 10-second fuse. If you're using cans, we don't believe that this would be an issue, but we're gonna find out here. So 10-second fuse is definitely more like a cake. So you might be wondering when it's time to reload these things, how do you get rid of the hot glue on here? Well, we're gonna show you. Just like that.
Pops it right off.
All right, we're gonna try it again. These are the number 2 shells with 2-second fuse. I like that pace a lot.
That was gorgeous.
That was exactly like a cake.
Yep.
So here goes another test with the number 3 shells, and the fuse we're using is the 1.25 seconds a foot. This should go a lot quicker. Wow.
That was perfection.
That was epic. All right, we're gonna be doing some more tests, so stay tuned, but this is the fastest fuse we've got. It burns at 0.01 to 0.03 seconds per foot. These shells are number 4. Really hoping these are willows. Oh, wow, that was cool.
Wow.
So the willows must be shell number 5?
Must be.
So after this, we're gonna be testing some canister shells, but right here we have the number 5 shells with the 1.25 seconds per foot fuse. Let's see the number 5s. I think these are gonna be willows. Well, these are totally gonna be willows. This is gonna be epic. Yeah, oh my God.
Wow.
Look at that. Wow. So we just tested all 6 of the ball shells, and now we're gonna start testing some canister shells. So as you can see, these are the Red Apple Bomba shells, 6-inch edition, and we're loading them in the exact same way. So check it out, just like that. All right, we got all 5 of our 6-inch canister shells in here, and the fuse we're using to test it out is the 1.25 seconds per foot. Here we go. Ironically, we're loading this with canister shell fuse too, or leading it, I guess. Wow.
Night and day difference.
Yep, on the height for sure.
Yep.
All right, guys, we are gonna retire this rack for the night and try something else. So right now we're gonna be doing another test with the ball shells on this rack here where every single tube is straight up. The reason we're gonna do this is to see if there's any correlation with the lift charge kind of going off to the side on the angled racks like that. Like all the lift will kind of pile up right here on the ones that have an extreme angle. So we want to see if we can replicate the low break on these tubes that are straight up in the air, or if it is exclusively a problem with the angled rack. So that's what we're going to be testing here. If all 20 shells in this rack go up the same height, then we know that the problem lies within the angled rack. So on this rack here, you'll notice we have some quick fuse at the very end, and that's actually the wraparound fuse so that we can get the shells to continue in the rack on the other side where we have these same holes drilled, but they're facing the other way. So we want to make sure that we get that fuse going over quick enough to where it looks more like a cake than a rack. And I don't know if I mentioned this before, but this is the 1.25 seconds per foot.
So I cut every one of these pieces at 3.5 inches, and it fits out perfect. You get about 1 inch exposed on the outside of the tube, and that's what actually gives you your time in between. And this is a 20-second fuse, and on the other side, we'll use a 10-second fuse.
So we're trying to go for volleys of 5s here, and I'm just gonna try to explain this rack real quick. So up here, we did not have enough shells to make 5 shots, so we used a shell 1 here, and the rest of them are 4s. And after this little delay here with the green fuse, we go right into the number 2 shells, where we wrap around at the end.
That's a 20-second per foot fuse, and this is the 1.25 leading around.
And that fuse that wraps around comes right here where we light off all the 2s, all the way up to 5 where we have another delay. And this here is the 10-second fuse, so a tiny delay here, hopefully, where we go into our next 5 shells. And the last 5 shots on this rack are gonna be the number 5 shells. All right guys, so remember we're testing if they go as high in a straight up tube versus the angle in that last 5-shot rack we showed you. Here goes 20 shots of ball shells. Really hoping this works.
That 10-second fuse and that 1.2 second was just too fast. So you definitely need the 20-second fuse in between to have that delay in between the volleys of 5. And then we'll probably have to use a 2-second fuse to wrap it around to get the delay coming into the next side.
So as you guys can see, we did have quite a few low breaks on this. We're not sure what we're gonna do. So we're loading up another rack for our final test, and we are including some canister shells in this one, but we also have some ball shells in there. We'll explain it to you here in a minute. So this is where we're gonna light it, and it comes down here. We got 5 shots of crackling. These are the number 3 shells out of the shooter shell kit. And as you can see, we have a little bit of a delay here with the 20-second green Visco going into another 5 shots. These are the number 5 shells, which are the willows. And then we do the little wraparound here with the 1.6 to 2.6 second fuse right there. And flipping the rack around, we went with all canister shells. So we have 10 canister shells loaded up here with that little delay after 5 shots. All right, I'm gonna shoot this one in wide angle because on that last one, we did get some low breaks. Here we go.
That rack.
Oh my God, look at that. Yeah, we got some low ones on the willows.
We did. Yep.
But the crackling all went up.
They all went up just fine.
Yeah.
And they went up just fine last time.
Weird. So just for fun, we're gonna do a little test on these tubes here. We have a 12-inch tube, a 15-inch tube, and this is probably something like 20, 21 inches. We're gonna be shooting mine shells out of these tubes to see if we get a closer concentration of the stars in a longer tube versus the shorter one. So what we're gonna do here is I have 3 of these blue palm mine shells, and we're gonna put 1 in the 12-inch, 1 in the 15-inch, and 1 in this 21-inch tube. All right, we got our shells loaded up. We're gonna go ahead and start with the 12-inch tube. And I'm gonna get back the same distance every time. Uh-oh.
That lit the 15.
15 or 20?
The long one.
21.
21.
I don't know. It was louder.
It was definitely louder.
All right, here goes the 15. Sorry about that, guys. It didn't really go that high, though. Like, they went about the same height. Yeah, I'd say it's all the same.